Hey, kids, it's the Matt Murphy Radio Show getting underway for another afternoon, and may I be the first to say good afternoon this Thursday, April 13, 2023. It's my episode 319 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. I have no idea what episode it is on Talk TV, but we're doing that. That would be on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Twitch. You're invited to be a part of that if you'd like.
By the way, Gesundheit.
Yeah, I heard that. Well, I did. I had to sneeze, and I never know what to do because, you pause, and people wonder, did you keel over? What happened there? So I don't know why I feel compelled to tell people that I sneezed when I sneezed on the radio. But I knew that people that watched on Talk TV could see me sneeze, and, that merits a Gesundheit or a... I tried to... There was about a 3-year period there, Bel K, that I tried to bring Gesundheit back. It's tough. It's a toughie. People are really dug in on the God bless you. They don't like the Gesundheit, although the Gesundheit means to your health in German. Anyway, I digress. It's Thursday. We've lots to do. I have a couple of admissions to begin the show. I want to admit a few things to you. By the way, you can always reach us. My show is always open 180 minutes of the day at 615-737-9986 for better or worse. We do it that way. 615-737-9986. You can also super text us. Same number, 615-737-9986. WWTN. But I think it's admission time on the Matt Murphy Show. A couple of things. First, my in-laws are in town. My father-in-law and I are hanging out while my wife has taken my mother-in-law to Biltmore in Asheville, North Carolina. The first out-of-town date that my wife and I went on was at the Biltmore. Bob and Susie, my in-laws, went to the Biltmore when they were youngsters, and so there's a little bit of a connective tissue there. And E wanted to take her mother to somewhere nice. I don't know if it's Mother's Day. I don't know if that's the affiliation or whatever, but it's a girls' trip. So they're doing that, and with that in mind, my game plan is to be off tomorrow, and Bob and I will go chase. We'll go shoot golfs. If you've ever seen the Beverly Hillbillies episode, you understand what I'm saying. And if you've not, you don't. But golfs are tough. You got to shoot them. You got to spike them. You got to hit them with a club. Anyway, so today is my First Amendment Freestyle Friday on Thursday. So with that in mind, anything on your mind, you're welcome to give us a call. But here's the admission. So I left work at about 3:08. No, it was a little after that because I had some production to do. So maybe it's 3:25, earlier than normal because normally I, work a little bit on the next day's broadcast, et cetera. Talk with Bell about it. But yesterday I left and I went and I picked my father-in-law up and I'm showing him around Nashville and we're going to do this and that and the other. More on Princess Hot Chicken later. And I have not seen one scintilla of news. Not about, obviously I did my homework for the show today. I did that this morning. But I have chosen to, since 3 o'clock yesterday until 12 o'clock today, 21 hours, for 21 hours, I have not seen one piece of news on Justin Pearson or Justin Jones or Gloria Johnson. And I got to tell you, I'm feeling pretty good. For 21 hours, I have not read one article about how the Republicans in Tennessee are racist. I've not read one piece about how the Tennessee legislature is ruining democracy. I've not seen one video of Pearson or Jones or Johnson making behinds of themselves. Not one. And it has been wonderful. I strongly recommend it. As a matter of fact, I think it's about time that we made these people non-people. Sadly, because you're dealing with individuals that have no shame. Sadly, because you're dealing with individuals that have no ethics or morals. They don't care that they turned the story into one about themselves and turned it away from the focus, which should have been on the 6 people who got killed at the Covenant School a little over 2 weeks ago. They don't care. You feed the beast, we feed the beast. Now, part of that is an occupational hazard. We are duty-bound to talk about the issues of the day. By the way, will you get ready while I'm ranting, Bell? I want to go to this in just a second because it's on, mine is on hashtag #NeverCNN. I want to, I'm going to want some of this in my life because I'm sure it's a debacle. Right now, the geriatric Joe Biden, Sloppy Joe as I call him, is addressing the Irish Parliament. And
you want to see my temper? Keep going.
I'm sure that it's delightful. And while I understand that we have to deal with the aftermath, and I'm not dismissing the fact that this was royally screwed by the Republicans in this state, sadly, I've gotten to the conclusion that what should have happened is a recognition that we have gaps in Tennessee's law about expulsion, a recognition that if you expel them, they're immediately going to be returned by the Metro Council and the Shelby County Commission. I guess that's what that body is. You recognize that, you censure them, you turn them into non-people on the floor of the House of Representatives, and you move on. And maybe you bolster the rules, giving you a better ability to expel individuals that are willing to try to cause a riot on the floor of the House of Representatives, which is what they did. It's on video, if you can find it. But that said, I highly recommend that you get away from this and let's make these people non-people. What do I mean by that? Democrats feed on what? They feed on power, control, attention. Power, control, attention. And not necessarily in that order. And we are giving them a bellyful of all three, sadly, in the state of Tennessee. I think we should take on this First Amendment Freestyle Friday on Thursday on the Matt Murphy Show a respite from the Justins and Gloria. Now, I can't do it the entire show. I've got to talk about an ancillary issue involving gun control with John Harris at 12:35. And then at 2 o'clock today, we'll speak with Senator Jack Johnson. But we will not speak with Jack Johnson about the action of the House of Representatives. We're going to talk to the Senate Majority Leader about what's going on in the Senate and what actual good we can see coming out of the legislative process over the last couple of weeks, or the last couple of weeks of the session, which is soon to wrap up, thankfully. So I would recommend that you choose on a beautiful day like we're experiencing in Middle Tennessee. Let's just get away from this debacle and stop giving them oxygen on which they live. These three individuals have become like a wildfire, and they're sucking all of the oxygen out of the forest to feed the flames of the fire.
You're a damn liar, man. That's not true.
Now, I have one other point to make on this. One other thing to say about Gloria and the two Justins. Before I do, can I just get a little delicious Joe Biden in my life? Joe Biden is addressing the Irish Parliament right now. Let's listen in.
That is opening new futures for young people in Northern Ireland. As I pointed out, there are literally hundreds of American corporations ready to come and invest, but they're cautious.
I wonder if he's joking.
Because their institutions are not in place. We must never forget that peace, even as has become and lived reality for an entire generation of young people, peace is precious. It still needs its champions. It still needs to be nurtured. The Good Friday Agreement didn't just change lives for the better in Northern Ireland. It has significant positive impact across the Republic of Ireland as well.
Like 4 people get mad at me when I talk over the president.
Last month in Washington,
they do.
And again today, how Ireland and the United States can work together with the United Kingdom and the European Union to support the people of Northern Ireland. I think
not a joke
that the United Kingdom should be working closer with Ireland in this endeavor. Political violence must never again be allowed to take hold in this island.
Yay! Peace is precious. Okay,
where am I? What's going to happen to me?
I don't think he knows. The president is speaking in Ireland. He actually said that he was going to stay there the other day, which was the first thing that I can remember coming out of his mouth that I agreed with. I most certainly would love for him to stay there. All right, so you're welcome to text us. We've got lots to get into today that don't have to do with the two Justins and the Gloria Johnson situation. Obviously, we will talk about the leaks. We now have information about where the leaks came from. Okay? We'll do that at some point over the course of the day, probably in the second hour. I mentioned that John Harris will be here. Now, we've offered an invitation to the governor's office, Bill Lee, to stop by and tell us the specifics of legislation on these gun protection orders. We will speak with John Harris about it as much as we know about the legislation. Obviously, as the executive director of the Tennessee Firearms Association, I would expect that John Harris is none too happy with the idea of quote-unquote red flag laws, but I don't want to put words into his mouth. He'll be here at 12:35. He'll speak for himself. The issue is, how do you precognitively, and we've discussed this ad nauseum, how do you precognitively prevent crimes that have yet to occur? By analyzing the mental status of an individual. And how do you then parlay that into a denial of rights? And yes, to 5510, I said what I said about, yes, I want to make them non-people. Yeah, the way that you make politicians non-people is you ignore them. And you don't give them oxygen. Now, 5510 says, Eric Holder is getting involved, which he wouldn't do if he wasn't in for the fight. Stupid comment that you will understand in a couple of weeks. I know what you meant won't be how you will be heard. This extends to Gloria Johnson and to the other two Justins. And look, if I have to monitor what I say in a free and open society in a way to prevent liberals from coming after me, that's all I'm going to do is monitor what I say. I'm not coming after you, 5510. I'm just telling you. That's a dang slippery slope where I have to measure what I say and I have to backtrack and I have to over-explain it because there are dunderheads that want to take everything that I say in 180 minutes a day, 3 hours a day, 15 hours a week. I don't know how many hours that is a year. They're looking, they're begging, they're waiting for the 23 years I've done this to take something out of context so they can attack me and destroy me. I've long said, 5510 has me on a toot, pardon me. I've long said, 5510, that, well, he just responded again. How will they hear that? I can't measure what I say based on how people are going to mischaracterize it. The political left acts in the same fashion as radical Islam. Let me walk through this. This is what they do. They demand that you convert to their way of thinking, their political ideology, or you subjugate yourself to their political ideology. In other words, you're superior to me, I'm inferior to you. Or, and I know you are 5510, you don't have to worry about that. Instead of just looking out for me. Or, I said, walk through this. Tell me how the political ideology and the political maneuvering of the left is any different than radical Islam in this sense. We know that radical Islam demands that you are subjugated, you are converted, or you are destroyed. Now, in their world, destruction means death. In the political world of the radical Democrat Party, you either subjugate yourself to their political ideology, you convert to their political ideology, or they will destroy you. They will destroy you within your career. They will destroy you in your job setting. They'll destroy you financially. They'll ruin you. That's the goal. The radical Democratic Party is going to be the destruction of this country if we let it.
You're a lying dog-faced pony soldier.
Thank you, Mr. President. Appreciate that. Now, before I get too far away from it. So the father-in-law loves hot things. You got my picture, right? Belle K demanded a picture. You got the photograph, didn't you?
No. Did you
You
text?
most certainly did.
Did you text it?
Yeah, you responded.
Oh, I didn't realize that was him.
Yeah, that's Bob. That's Bob eating some delicious Princess hot chicken.
Did he finish it?
Yeah.
Wow. He got triple X?
Yeah. I don't understand how triple X can be hotter than extra hot. I made the mistake of getting extra hot again. I'd gotten extra hot in the past. Now, it comes, like plain, mild, medium, hot, extra hot, extra hot, and extra hot. Bob got triple X and ate the whole thing and said it was hot but good. Now, Bob has no taste buds on his tongue, understand?
Apparently.
No, I mean, the man grew and ate ghost peppers. He would grow ghost peppers, dry them out, and then grind them up and use them as salt on his food. I mean, it's just ridiculous. It's just ridiculous. Really.
He's eating that piece of chicken and throwing you a thumbs up.
Oh, no, he's Princess hot chicken, baby. It was good. It's the original. I love it. All right, so we'll get to your super text in just a moment. We'll get to your telephone calls as well. Here's my admission. When I talk to Southern people in certain settings, I talk more Southern. My admission is based on Justin Pearson and the difference between Pearson's conversational language 4, 5, 6 years ago and the way he sounded the other day. And the reason I do it is because of my grandpa. Because my grandfather had a very Southern accent. I still have a Southern accent, don't get me wrong, but it was not as thick as my granddad's. But if I get around Southern people, I start talking like my grandpa again, like I talked when I was a kid. So I'm not going to knock on Justin Pearson because Justin Pearson now wants to be a preacher or at very least an agitator. And so he's talking more like it now. Makes sense to me. 1222 Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Hey, friends, it's Matt Murphy for McGill's world-famous Glock store. I had the opportunity to tour the facility last week. I've been waiting to be able to tell you about the incredible Glock store, and now I get that opportunity. Let me tell you about one facet of the Glock store that I'm very excited about. Dan took me around to the shooting rooms. They have shooting rooms. They do not have shooting lanes at the Glock store because they understand that real life doesn't happen in a shooting lane. And you can stand there and you can pump bullets into a target for as long as you want, and you can become very proficient in that, but that's not the way the real world works in terms of having to use your weapon, your gun, for self-defense. So there's only one Shoot 270 indoor range complex, and it's only at the Glock store. 4 individual shoot rooms, full-size, movable bullet trap targets, professional instructors that will bring you to the next level regardless of where you are when you start. Visit shoot270.com, which is a specialized website, for more information about how you can book a session today. The world-famous Glock store. I'm going to be training starting next week, and I hope you join me in training to be prepared. Hope is not a plan. We got to get trained. Shoot270.com, minutes from the airport and worth the drive from anywhere.
A Roth IRA versus a traditional IRA. Which one should we do? A lot of people struggle over this particular decision. And I'll just give you a couple tools to figure out what might be better for you. Think about it this way. Let's say if I had $1,000 that I was thinking about investing, that was income, $1,000 of income. With an IRA, let's say that you're in a 30% tax bracket. Let's say there is such a thing. And you want to put this money in an IRA. You're going to save $300 in taxes. Now, if you go post-tax with like a Roth IRA, this is how much goes into the Roth IRA. Now, let's say that later on down the road, we have this money and it didn't grow at all, just to keep the math really simple. And let's say that at some point in the future, you're in a lower tax bracket, because the way our tax system works is that your first income is taxed at a really low rate, and then you get up into higher rates, 10%, 12%, 22%, and so on and so forth. It gets higher. If you're earning income and you're at that particular tax rate up there, you might want to avoid that tax rate right now and take the income at a later point in time when you're in a lower average tax rate. Now let's say that you're in a 10% bracket down here when you pull the money. How much are you going to pay in taxes? 10% of $1,000 is $100. How much do you get to spend? $900. Well, even though I didn't have growth, I had growth because of the difference between my tax rate here and here. And that's the idea. That's one of the things that we look at. We look at Social Security taxation, income taxation, and a lot of factors that might drive you in a higher or lower brackets in the future. If you want to learn more about our approach to investing and financial planning, go to paulwinkler.com and set up a free 15-minute phone call, or call 615-851-1950.
It is exterior painting season at Nashville Painting Company, and they want to talk with you. You call Nashville Painting Company. A lot of times you'll talk to Jeremy himself. Jeremy is the owner of Nashville Painting Company, and that's a cool thing, right? Because I love the fact that they're locally owned, locally operated at Nashville Painting Company. Jeremy's been in town for just less than a decade now. And he was in Birmingham when I was in Birmingham. He painted my house in Birmingham, painted both the inside and outside. And the next time I need a paint job on my home here in Nashville, there's only one number I'm calling, Nashville Painting Company. Why? Because they're the best. They're not the most expensive. They've got the best warranties in the business, 3, 5, 7, and 10-year warranties available. They've got brick painting warranties as well. They'll give you free estimates and color consultation, professional estimates with exact scopes and pricing now. And each job has its own superintendent. That means you don't have to make a phone call if there's something odd or wrong or a question that you have. There's a supervisor on every job. Fully licensed and insured, of course. They're just the best at what they do. Spruce up that house right now with Nashville Painting Company. NashvillePaintingCompany.com or 615-635-0350. Please tell them that I told you to call. 615-635-0350 for Jeremy and the crew at Nashville Painting Company. And Todd writes in on the Super Text line. By the way, check us out on the Super Text line, 615-737-9986, as always. Did I say it was episode 319? I can't remember. I try to do that every day. People enjoy it. By the way, no sign today. I apologize for you Talk TV folks. I had no time. There was a lot of things going on prior to the show. And as I mentioned, there was 21 hours of rest and relaxation with the family in town. So
Dude, all you have to do is just take any Bill Murray quote and slap it up there, and they're golden.
True. That's true. That's true. And I mean, anything coming from Caddyshack.
Yeah, I got that going for me, which is good.
Which is nice. You know what? I'll tell you what. During the break, I'll bring you a Caddyshack quote. I've already thought of it, the one that I'm going to bring you. I'll do that during the break, wipe it down, put it up. So you have that to look forward to, which is nice. Go over to Talk TV and you'll see it for yourself on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, or Twitch. But Todd writes in and says, Matt, you sound deranged. You're not agreeing with the left. You need your guns removed. You see, that's the thing. That's the camel's nose under the tent. We all agree that if there is a way that we have the ability to precognitively decide that someone is going to commit murder, then obviously we're not going to allow that person to have guns. But I don't know that that's possible. And there's the rub, because I do know what liberals will do with the law and how they'll use the law. They already think conservatives and libertarians are crazy. They're just waiting for the opportunity to use the law against us. I believe that. Larry is first up today in Clarksville. I love Larry. Hey, Larry, how are you?
Hey, brother. Well, you kind of stole my thunder because I was going to say in my best Joe Biden voice that Bob is actually a bad dude and badder than Corn Pop. And then I was going to tell you to not go get Prince's hot chicken. So, but all politics aside, I'm saluting you, brother, with one of Hank's best Bloody Marys, and I want you to have a great weekend.
Thank you, Larry. I appreciate that. It is my Thursday, my Friday, because I'm off tomorrow, so I do appreciate that sincerely, and I'll take you up on that Bloody Mary later on this weekend. How about that? 12:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. More calls coming up. Plus, Joe Biden says that he's concerned about the leak, but not that concerned, and we now know maybe where the leak is coming from. That leak of Pentagon information. We'll tell you the story coming up next on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. You know, Tennessee Men's Clinic has been reminding men for a long time now that that testosterone can affect your life. It can affect your life negatively, and it can cause depression resulting from the potential for ED as a result of low testosterone. Tennessee Men's Clinic has treated thousands of men in this arena. They've an experienced staff who will work with you to find a treatment plan that could involve a variety of treatments to have you performing like you haven't in years. There is no one-size-fits-all approach at Tennessee Men's Clinic. There's many different causes for this. Heart conditions, diabetes, treatment plans vary. Every patient is different. There's a lot of frustration and negativity around getting the help that you need, and I understand that. Men just don't like going to the doctor at all, and most men wait. There's no need to wait. There are side effects caused by oral medication. Some men put up with that. I just want you to get the treatment that you deserve. I want you to do that at the Tennessee Men's Clinic. There's two locations to serve you, one right in downtown Nashville, the other brand new in Cool Springs. Call today at 615-208-9090 or visit TennesseeMen'sClinic.com. 615-208-9090. Tell them that you're ready to find out what's causing your issues with energy and tiredness with the Tennessee Men's Clinic. You know, active shooter and physical security expertise is a rarity, sadly, nowadays, and we need it nowadays more than ever. Defend Systems is a life safety and security consultation firm based right here in Middle Tennessee. Their expertise lies in their experience, Brink Fiddler has almost 2 decades experience with the Metro Nashville Police Department and has years of experience training people just like you on how to react to various things like active shooter response, workplace violence prevention, site surveys. He'll assess the threats within your working facility, security improvement consultation, as well as rapid response medical training. It's all available at Defense Systems for your place of business, for your school, your church. If you're a decision maker in any of these 3 locations or any place that people gather, do me a favor and call Defense Systems today. They'll get back to you. They've been inundated with calls lately, obviously in the aftermath of the tragedy of the Covenant School, but they want to help each and every one of you get prepared. Hope is not a plan. It is time to get trained with Defense Systems, defensesystems.com or 236-6484, 236-6484. Super Talk 99.7 WTN. It is the Matt Murphy Show. Just getting underway, really. It's 12:35. I promised giving you a breakdown. I forgot. I've got a guest. John Harris is coming up with the Tennessee Firearms Association. But I promise I will give you that breakdown on Joe Biden, the leak that was through the Pentagon, who it is believed leaked all of that information, and what the response has been from Joe Biden's the Pentagon, the State Department, etc. We'll do that coming up in just a couple of minutes. Wanted to get the reaction from the Tennessee Firearms Association to the suggestion by the governor's office that potentially we might have an opportunity to pass some sort of, what do they call them, new orders of protection, calling for the passage of what is essentially a red flag law in the state of Tennessee. To speak to this matter, John Harris joins us yet again on the Murphy Show hotline from the Tennessee Firearms Association, and it's always a pleasure to talk with John. John, good afternoon. Hope you're well.
Doing fine. Yourself?
I'm doing well. I enjoyed your op-ed that I read on the Tennessee Star's website. I encourage people to go read it themselves, where you make comment on this, and it's one of the reasons I was inspired to speak with you about it. John, I don't like to assume that I know where people are on this, but I'm pretty sure I know where you are on this. But for those who don't know, I want to back up first. What are traditionally defined as red flag laws?
A red flag law, in common definition, is a type of law where the focus is placed on removing access to a thing, such as a firearm, from someone who arguably poses a risk of harm to themselves or a third person.
So talk to me a little about how this jives. I mean, how this can jive. And we've had states that have passed these things. How do they pass constitutional muster, considering that the Second Amendment is pretty clear about all of this?
That's a great question. There are, depending on how you review each state's law, between 19 and 22 states that have some form of law that you would classify as a red flag law. Almost all of those were enacted prior to the United States Supreme Court's decision last June in what we commonly refer to as the Bruin decision. And so what was happening before Bruin is that the courts were using a constitutional scrutiny standard that said, first, is the activity, possession of a firearm, covered by the Second Amendment? If they answered that in the negative, then they didn't go any further, and they said the state could regulate the activity. If it was answered in the affirmative, then the second question became, well, does the state have a good reason, good cause for regulation, such as the default that states normally went running to would be public safety. And what happened in Bruin last year is the United States Supreme Court said to the lower level appellate courts across the nation, guys, y'all have really messed this up. There is no two-part test that is constitutionally permissible. The question and the test has to be if the activity is covered by the scope of the Second Amendment, possession of arms, then the government is prohibited by the Second Amendment from regulating that activity unless the government can show that a similar regulation existed amongst more than one state as of 1791.
So how does that jive with these, what are being called orders of protection? It doesn't seem like they would. Constitutional.
No, they won't at all. In fact, post-Bruin in November of 2022, a federal district court in the Fifth Circuit out towards Texas struck down the provision in the Gun Control Act from '68 that said an individual who has an order of protection issued against them commits a crime essentially by possessing a firearm or buying a firearm. The court struck that down and said now under Bruin that's unconstitutional. In December of 2022, a New York State court looking at the Bruin case declared unconstitutional New York's red flag law.
So before we get too far away from it and dig a little deeper into the governor's recommendation, I want to start here. Do you have? He did two things. He called on two things. One, he called on the General Assembly to pass what he, as you wrote in your op-ed, he avoided calling red flag laws, but that's what they are. But he also signed Executive Order 100. Do you have any concern about Executive Order 100, which it's my understanding would require the TBI to update any new criminal history or mental health information in a more timely fashion to the database? Do you have an issue with that?
The timeliness issue is 72 hours is what's in his order, and I don't really have heartache with that. I think in most circumstances, the courts and the agencies that are required to submit this information are probably responding that fast or faster already. There is a little concern because his executive order used some language that wasn't precise when it talks about reporting not only criminal records, but orders pertaining to mental health. And there are some classes of mental health orders that fall under the involuntary committal process that do not impact an individual's ability to purchase or possess firearms. And if he's including those orders, which are not public records, they're private, confidential records, even though they're from a court, then I think he's overreached if those are being included.
Okay, that makes sense because I read it and I lean on your expert knowledge with regard to the law on this. I read it and I didn't get concerned about it because if the focus is on demanding of the government agency that they do what they already have been doing in a timely fashion, I'm fine with that. It's the other piece that causes me concern because, speaking generally, we all can agree that we don't have people with significant or serious, well, I don't want to presume. Do we agree that people with significant or serious mental issues that potentially would cause them to be a danger to others or themselves, can we lawfully preclude them from legally owning a firearm, John?
That is a question that I think is going to take some guidance from the federal courts under Bruin because of the fact that the 6-3 majority in Bruin said the law has to exist. First, it says that the category of problem, if it existed in 1791 or before, then the court has to look at, was there a law interfering with the Second Amendment rights that was the solution or the remedy in 1791? And clearly, what research I've done so far says that as of 1791, if you had a person with a mental health issue that posed an immediate risk of harm to themselves or others, they didn't send the sheriff out and take his guns away and then ride off in the sunset and leave the guy there to, get a stick of dynamite. They detained the person and stuck them in a facility or an asylum where they were observable and taken out of public circulation. And so there's going to be a serious question, even on this, what I think most people would agree is a need for intervention as to what that permissible intervention is.
I want to back up for a second because I don't know that I've asked you this question, John. Do you believe in the concept and the legality of background checks more generally?
I think in general there were categories of people as of 1791 that could not lawfully possess arms. I mean, for example, they would typically say that, Native Americans couldn't possess arms, slaves couldn't possess arms. And so the suitability of a background check of sorts, I think, may well be a type of law that would pass constitutional scrutiny. I think the bigger issue is what's the scope of the check? Are they looking for issues that are now impermissible for asserting that a person no longer has the right to possess a firearm? Like, for example, the Fifth Circuit's recent decision that said orders of protection can no longer be enforced as a prohibition on someone's right to purchase or possess a firearm.
I know that in your op-ed you also expressed concern that, while this is a worthy discussion to have, particularly when it is instructional to individuals in positions of political power with regard to the Bruen decision, which sadly I don't know that the Bruen decision was taken under consideration at all based on the governor's comments. Would you agree with that?
Oh, no, I would strongly agree with that. In fact, I have had certain legislators report back to me that there are legislators in leadership who have asserted and continue to assert that the Bruen decision has no relevance at all to the state of Tennessee.
Well, why in the world would they say that? It's a Supreme Court decision.
Absolutely it is, yeah. And in fact, it's the basis on which our current Attorney General has already conceded in the Beeler decision, which just came down in March, that Tennessee violated the Second and 14th Amendment rights of individuals concerning the 18 and up age bracket, and that violation constituted a federal civil rights violation. There's another Middle Tennessee appellate court on a case coming out of Columbia, Maury County, that specifically made its decision based on Bruen. And it is astounding to me that we have members of the General Assembly that neither know what Bruen says, nor do they, if they know what it says, assert that it is irrelevant to their authority as state legislators.
Well, and I understand that there's a lot of emotion in the aftermath of such a tragedy, an evil tragedy like Covenant, and there is an extreme desire in our state to, quote, do something. And the governor expressed that he wanted to be able to rush laws that, quote, remove individuals who are a threat to themselves or to our society, to remove them from access to weapons. And I think that the difficulty in removing rights hinges on whether or not that individual has posed a real threat to other individuals, or if we are trying to precognitively determine that threat exists. Because when you get into the arena of precognition, that's a very dangerous place to be with regard to our laws when it comes to the Second Amendment, John.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. And we do have a law that in many respects I think passes constitutional muster, and those are the statutes that we've had for many years under Title 33, which is the Mental Health Code. This says if, based upon medical evaluation, and all this happens very quickly, within a matter of hours, a determination is made that an individual, as a result of mental or emotional health circumstances, poses an imminent risk of harm to themselves or to others, that individual can, by court order, be placed into a mental health facility or hospital for evaluation and treatment for up to 2 weeks, which clearly takes them out of the access to firearms category. And then at that period of time, the person has a right to an evidentiary hearing with expert medical proof and a right to have an attorney defend them at the cost of the state to determine if they are a mental health risk and if they should be continued under court-ordered or mandated mental health supervision.
It sounds to me like the laws already exist to potentially prevent some of these tragedies from happening. It's a matter of people around these individuals that are seen to be in a mentally unstable state to try to get them the help that they need. Based on what you're saying, if they were to do that and it was to be diagnosed by a mental health professional that they are indeed a danger to themselves or others, that the laws are already there to preclude them from being able to obtain any sort of weapons, guns included, that could harm other people.
Yeah, very much so. I mean, the mental health statutes that are already on the books go so far as to say that if they are determined or if they're adjudicated as mentally defective as part of the process, then notice has to be given to the state agencies to put them on the do not buy list, basically.
And then and another piece that I wanted to get to before we have to go, you were concerned, and I am too, that there's not more focus on giving these places where people congregate, particularly churches and schools, et cetera, more of an ability to defend themselves in the case that an assailant might try to do them harm, especially when it comes to teachers in the state of Tennessee being able to arm themselves voluntarily.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, in fact, we've published on our website a letter that Bill Lee sent to TFA in 2018 when he was candidate Lee for governor, and he expressly assured our organization that he had a number of Second Amendment relevant things that he would do, one of which was to pass and sign legislation 5 years ago that would have authorized school employees to, if they chose to do so, be able to carry on campus.
Well, I'm concerned about that, too, and hopefully we'll be able to talk to the governor very soon and get his take on where he stands today. And I'm appreciative of you posting the 2018 letter so we know where he was then, if we are to believe the letter, and I have no doubt that he was speaking truthfully then. Maybe something's changed now. Let's try to find out from the governor's office where he is on that front. John, do you find it this is more of a personal question. As we've talked these many months that I've been in the state of Tennessee, I'm curious. I mean, is it especially difficult, and I know you try to separate the legal from the emotional, but in the aftermath of this, people are very emotional, and they want to do something. They don't know what, but people talk about gun control. People talk about mental health issues. And you are a voice of reason when it comes to the law and what individuals are legally allowed to do versus frankly, there is we are not a perfect society. And in a society that values liberty beyond security, there are always going to be cracks that evil people can slip through, sadly. You try to protect those cracks as much as you can. You try to give people the ability to protect themselves as much as they can. But, folks don't want to face that reality that freedom is valued beyond security in the United States. I mean, do you find it hard to talk about these types of things during these times?
It is difficult, and it's, because I do recognize that there are advocates that are genuine, but they're responding predominantly from a position of emotional priority as opposed to a sound understanding of what are their constitutionally permissible options. And so it's sort of the example of the Venn diagram of the Constitution says these are your permissible options that you may select from. And once the emotion enters the formula, they don't look at the diagram at all. They just rush to a solution, and unfortunately, it's frequently an emotional solution that's the principled targets of the gun control movement itself.
Well, and
that's why with red flag laws, you see they're focused on getting the guns off the street and away from anybody for any reason, as opposed to getting mental health treatment for the individual.
John, always good to catch up with you and lean on your legal expertise in these matters. I appreciate the Tennessee Firearms Association, and we'll talk again very soon. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
There's John Harris, Tennessee Firearms Association. Back in a moment. Reflect on that. It's 12:52. Man, oh man, the Dr. Gill Center. I don't know where I would be from a back perspective if not for the Dr. Gill Center. I'll tell you where I will not be tomorrow. I wouldn't be at the golf course. I mentioned I'm taking the day off to spend some time with my father-in-law, and we spend time out in the green pastures of a golf course. I couldn't swing a golf club prior to going to the Dr. Gill Center because my lower back was just so inflamed. There was so much pain going on there. There was a compression that I really wasn't aware of, and Dr. Wendy identified that compression. She helped me understand how they were going to use spinal decompression to alleviate, get more hydration in there, get more flow going on, get those nerves working properly, and eliminate the pain without the need for pills and certainly without the consideration for surgery. This could be you. You could be next. If you've limited your ability to do physical or outdoor activities, whatever the reason, maybe it's back pain, knee pain, neck pain, hip pain, elbow pain, whatever it might be, they can help you at the Dr. Gill Center. They've been doing it for over 30 years now and doing it the best way, without the need for surgery or pain pills. Here's the number, 615-882-4838, 882-4838 for the Dr. Gill Center.
From ABC News, I'm Michelle Franzen. We're learning more about the leaked classified documents. Sources tell ABC News authorities have identified a member of the Massachusetts Air National Guard as a person of interest in that investigation into the documents leaked over the Discord social media platform in recent months. ABC's Louis Martinez is at the Pentagon.
Now, the New York Times has named this individual, this Air National Guardsman. ABC News is not identifying him at this time, but has reached out to family members for comment. We have also reached out to the National Guard Bureau. They have issued a statement to ABC News where they confirm that they are aware of the information of these reports out there in the press right now. And they also say that they understand that the National Guard takes this issue very seriously and will support investigators.
In Manhattan, former President Trump sitting for a second deposition in a New York civil fraud lawsuit that accuses his family business of inflating values for real estate dealings. ABC's Aaron Katersky is in Manhattan and says that instead of taking the fifth, Trump is looking to tell his side.
His attorney, Alina Habba, issued a statement as the deposition got underway, saying that the former president was anxious to answer questions and explained to the attorney general how successful his multi-billion-dollar business has been. And so it appears that he is prepared to answer at least some of the questions as part of this $250 million civil lawsuit.
Jury selection underway in Delaware in the Dominion defamation case against Fox News. Dominion claiming that Fox falsely claimed election fraud caused by Dominion voting machines in the 2020 presidential election. The airport in Fort Lauderdale flooded yesterday remains closed until at least tomorrow. Weather experts calling it a 1,000-year storm. More than 2 feet of rain fell in a 24-hour period and caused major flooding throughout the city. You're listening to ABC News.
Hey, friends, it's Matt Murphy, and Paul Winkler is the best. I'm telling you, folks, I'm not just an endorser, I'm a client. Now, I am an endorser, and federal regulations require that I tell you that I'm paid when I talk about Paul Winkler on the radio. I am proud to be paid by Paul Winkler, and I'm proud to be a client of Paul Winkler's because of what he does for the people that he serves, people just like you that are looking to protect your nest egg. I'll tell you, your nest egg is obviously important to you, and it's important to Paul as well. He's a fiduciary, meaning everything that he does is in his client's best interest. He believes you worry less when you know what's going on. That's why education is key for Paul and his team. Every office is run by a degreed planner with over 20 years experience. No kids fresh out of school. They have 10 offices to serve you, and they want to set up a free 15-minute phone consultation with you right now. Go to the website, paulwinkler.com. That's one of the ways you can set it up, paulwinkler.com, or give them a call, 615-851-1950. Once again, 615-851-1950. 50. Do what I did and consult with the best and protect your nest egg with Paul Winkler. All right, here we are. Here we go. It is the Matt Murphy Radio Show on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. It's 105. Pleased to have you with us on this Thursday, April 13. Whether you're listening on the air, whether you're listening on our app, on iHeartRadio, or perhaps you're watching on Super Talk TV, we appreciate you. Hello, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Twitch. I promised you I'd give you the Caddyshack quote, and I did. That's one of my favorites. There are many quotable moments out of Caddyshack, and this is one of my favorites, because I don't understand why you would want, if you wanted to make the money, I don't understand why you would want to make the money the hard way. That doesn't make any sense to me. Anyway, we've got lots to cover as we continue for the next 2 hours, anticipating the drive this afternoon on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. So Joe Biden's Justice Department have offered what critics are calling a sweetheart plea deal to a vandal that admitted to defacing a Catholic church with profane graffiti. Did you see this? It's making the rounds in the news because the rules are for thee and not for me. When it comes to the Biden Justice Department, the rules are for thee and not to me. Believe it or not, Merrick Garland, while we have district attorneys around the United States of America allowing our major cities, our major metropolitan areas to burn to the ground, and we do. I mean, think Alvin Bragg. While Alvin Bragg is wasting his time on a nonsense going nowhere case against Donald Trump, while San Francisco, a once great city, burns to the ground, not literally, figuratively, you have district attorneys letting people out of jail, offering in many of these liberal states bail-less release, meaning you don't have to offer up any money, in many cases for violent assault, for violent crimes. You go into the system, you get your fingerprints taken, most times again, and off you go. But boy, oh boy, if you commit the wrong type of crime and you happen to be thinking the wrong type of way, they lay the hammer down on you. Think January 6th and the riot that occurred in the aftermath of what was mostly a peaceful demonstration on the National Mall. A plea agreement reviewed by Fox News shows that the DOJ recommends 0 jail time for the perpetrator, a person whose name I cannot pronounce. Mav Noda. Maeve. I'm going to guess Mav, but I don't know. 31-year-old transgender individual who vandalized the St. Louis Catholic Church in Bellevue, Washington. You see what I'm talking about? Right type of person committing the right type of crime against the right type of person. I remember, now this was a serious crime, don't get me wrong. But several years ago in the state of Alabama, a couple of youngsters, like 15, 16, 17-year-olds, I'm not exactly sure what their ages were at the time. I've forgotten that part of the story. They accidentally burned a church down. They were vandalizing an old rural church, and they accidentally burned it down. And so to try to cover up their crime or to cover up their mistake, they burned another church. It was so stupid. And they got like 10 years in jail as a result, state charges. And rightly so. I mean, you do the crime, you got to do the time, right? You know, there was a time when we treated people like this equitably. Now, this person, thank God, did not burn the Catholic Church to the ground, but they put profane graffiti on it, destroyed a statue of the Virgin Mary, assaulted a church worker, and resisted arrest. Imagine for a moment that the perpetrator in this case, a person by the name of Mav Noda, once again, 31-year-old transgender. Imagine if they had attacked a Jewish synagogue and put a swastika on it. Now, obviously, that's disgusting. Obviously, that's a punishable crime. Do you think the Biden Justice Department would go easy on that person? Like they've gone easy on this person? Of course not. Joe Biden's earlier approach of throwing the book at pro-life protesters outside abortion clinics is noticeable as well. The Biden Justice Department, according to Mike Davis, founder of the Article 3 Project, the Biden Justice Department tried to put someone in prison for 11 years for defending his son while recommending no jail time for Noda after the deranged trans terrorist badly damaged a Catholic church, fought with police, assaulted a church employee, and scared the hell out of a little old lady praying. Noda smashed 2 glass doors with rocks, spray painted the church's outside walls with messages that read, "Bleep Catholics," "Rot in your fake hell," "Kid groomers," and "women haters," among other messages. A church staff member was spray painted across her face while attempting to chase Noda away. When officers located Noda, police said he used a backpack full of spray paint cans to smash the police vehicle before turning himself in. Noda also appeared intoxicated during the arrest, said he was angry about the United States Supreme Court decision to overturn Roe v. Wade a week before the incident occurred. And the Biden Justice Department has recommended no jail time for this person. We are at a dangerous inflection point in the United States of America when we begin seeing 2 different systems of justice depending on your political ideology. And this individual obviously has a very particular political ideology, and they're going up against someone or an organization that the Biden administration doesn't have apparently any compelling reason to protect. Hey, Bell, I'm going to call an audible right here because the Brigadier General with the Pentagon is giving us an update from the Pentagon amid the report that the Pentagon leaker is about to be arrested. And I want to go to this. This is a late-breaking story we've been talking about on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Here's the Pentagon right now.
Given that this is an ongoing investigation, I'm not going to be able to talk about the investigation or any potential DOJ actions, so I'd refer you to them.
Okay, in the days after the leaks came to light, what steps has DOD taken to reduce the number of people who have access to not only these classified briefings, but the classified material in general?
Sure. So we continue to review a variety of factors as it relates to safeguarding classified materials. This includes examining and updating distribution lists, assessing how and where intelligence products are shared, and a variety of other steps. I would say, though, that it is important to understand that we do have stringent guidelines in place for safeguarding classified and sensitive information. This was a deliberate criminal act, a violation of those guidelines. And so, again, I think that's important to understand. Now, we will continue to do everything we can to ensure that people who have a need to know when it comes to this kind of information have access to that. We're always going to learn from every situation. But again, this is something that we'll continue to look at.
But you are taking steps to tighten that, I guess, population who might have access to this level of information.
That's accurate. Again, we continue to review those distribution lists, update them, make sure there's a need to know. But again, let me just emphasize my point that this was we have rules in place. Each of us signs a non-disclosure agreement. Anybody that has a security clearance, and so all indications are, again, this is a criminal act, a willful violation of those, and again, another reason why we're continuing to investigate and support DOJ's investigation.
And just last question, do you have a sense that this is just the act of one individual, and even if so, wouldn't members of his chain of command also be held accountable for this lost information?
Again, I don't want to speculate or get ahead of the DOJ's investigation. We need to allow that to run its course, and so I'd refer you to them. Let me go ahead and go to Gordon, and then I'll come back to Jen.
Yeah, Pat, just 2 questions. One, just to clarify, in DOD's efforts to change the way you do business in terms of protecting classified information, apart from the stuff that you do already, is that DOD-led or is that joint staff-led? Who's kind of directing what on that? And the second question is just hypothetically, I know you like hypotheticals, if somebody was to be charged, what would determine whether the military would charge and indict and carry out the legal process against that person or people, or DOJ?
Yeah. So on your latter question, you're right. I don't want to get into hypotheticals. I will say that, as always, every case is judged on its own merits, and we need to allow this investigation to run its course. And then, of course, there'll be more to say on that. On your first question, again, it's important to understand that this is not just about DOD. This is about the U.S. government. This is about how we protect and safeguard classified information. And as I highlighted, we do have strict protocols in place. So anytime there is an incident, anytime there's an opportunity to review that and refine it, we're of course going to take advantage of that. Within the Department of Defense, as you've heard us say, Secretary Austin has been convening daily meetings with his senior leaders, to include the chairman, to talk about reviewing the scope and the impact of this, and also to look at mitigation measures and what we need to do across the Department of Defense to ensure that we're doing our utmost to reinforce existing policies, procedures, and rules. And if there are any areas where we need to tighten things up, we certainly will.
All right, I'm gonna pull this down because I don't know that we're getting a lot of good or additional information. Bell will continue to monitor that. For those wondering while we're watching this story unfold, it's simple. You've got major leaks coming out of the Pentagon. FBI agents reportedly, according to Fox News, want to question a Massachusetts Air National Guardsman in their investigation into leaked classified documents. A law enforcement source briefed on the investigation told Fox News that it is working to locate a guardsman who is currently believed to be in Massachusetts. See, I'm giving you more information than Pat Ryder, Brigadier General and Pentagon Press Secretary, will, because it's an ongoing investigation. I'll tell you, over the last 2 weeks, I've heard that so much. I mean, I know I'm talking about the manifesto, but you get it. National Guard said in a statement it is aware Thursday of, quote, the alleged role of the Massachusetts Air National Guardsmen and what they may have played in the recent leak of highly classified documents from the Pentagon. The National Guard takes the issue very seriously, according to the statement. National security is our foremost priority, and any attempt to undermine it compromises our values, degrades trust among our members, the public, allies, and partners. So multiple media outlets have now reported that the man is a member of the 102nd Intelligence Wing of the Massachusetts Air National Guard, who was involved in a private online group called Thug Shaker Central. The 102nd Intelligence Wing, when contacted by Fox News Digital about the matter, deferred comment to the Justice Department and the FBI. Separately, the Wall Street Journal cited an official saying an arrest could happen as soon as today. President Biden said in Ireland that the U.S. is, quote, getting close to finding the person responsible for leaking the documents that the Department of Defense described as containing sensitive and highly classified material. President also said, I'm concerned about that it happened, but there's nothing contemporaneous that I'm aware of that is of great consequence. I can't right now give an update. There's a full-blown investigation going on with the intelligence community and the Justice Department, and they are, according to Biden, getting close. The president also indicated that he thought arrest was imminent. So here's the background on this story. Washington Post reported that the person behind the leak is a man in his 20s who worked on a military base and shared classified information on the chat app Discord. The top secret intel that's been shared online included movements of high-ranking political leaders, updates on military force, detailed charts on battlefield conditions in Ukraine, satellite images in the aftermath of the Russian missile strike on Ukrainian facilities. Other documents, according to the report, included a potential trajectory of North Korean ballistic nuclear missiles that could reach the United States of America, photographs and information on the surveillance technology attached to the Chinese spy balloon, and that the Biden administration allowed it to float across the United States of America in February. That report coming from Greg Norman. No, not that Greg Norman, not the golfer. The reporter from Fox News. Very dangerous situation, one that should be taken seriously. Look, I believe that we, generally speaking, overclassify documents. But when you're talking about highly sensitive military movement, I mean, we learned out of this documentation that we have boots on the ground in Ukraine, right? Now, of course, they're walking it back saying, no, they're not really boots on the ground. They're just in an advisory role in Ukraine. But it's something that I've predicted would happen eventually. First, you send the money, then you send the materials, then you send the equipment, then you send bigger equipment, and finally you're sending people to train people on the equipment. And before you know it, let us just do this. We're better at it anyway. Right? It's like me and washing dishes. Well, more like clothes. I do wash dishes pretty well. Don't look at me that way, Belle. I'm right. If you're married, or if you're getting married, let me give you some advice, gentlemen. Advice that I probably wouldn't give you if I didn't know that my wife was in Asheville, North Carolina at the Biltmore. Screw up laundry bad enough right at the front end and you'll never have to do it again.
Doesn't mean she can't listen online.
Hush your mouth. Hush your mouth. You're in, I know that there's 28 genders now, but you're in man camp, pal. Or camp man, whichever way you want to put it. You're on my side on this issue. But early on, just screw up laundry good enough and you'll never be asked to do it again. You can get to the point where you can volunteer. No, I'll do laundry. No, you'll screw it up. You'll turn my white shirts pink. No. Never have to do it again. Similarly, and just to show you what a fair-minded guy I am, I think my wife did the same thing with outdoor work. Like, yard work around the house. You screw the lawn up bad enough and I'll never let you do it again because I don't want it looking that way. But yeah, Ukraine screws it up and eventually the Americans swoop on in, sadly, because that's how war creep happens. And we've learned that that's the case out of this Pentagon leak. So I'm not saying, I would say to you this, that there are certain things that they classify that they shouldn't, that the American people, we deserve to know where our money is and where our money's going. But there are some things that are sensitive and could get people killed, and apparently the Biden administration is allowing that sensitive material to appear online. The briefing is ongoing, and we'll go back to it if there's any pertinent detailed information. It's 122, Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Friends, it's Matt Murphy, and allow me to reintroduce you yet again to Coach Scott Oatsvall and LT360. I'm so proud to be affiliated with LT360. I love what they do and how they do it. Here's the LT360 difference. You'll lose weight. If you become a partner with LT360 and you truly want to transform your life and get back to holistic health without the need for pharmaceuticals, to get back to cellular health, and Coach Scott can tell you how, then you don't need to be on a diet plan because that weight's going to come off on its own. It's almost a residual. This is not a diet plan. This is a life plan. And now they have a brand new meeting this Monday, April 17th at 6:30 at the Williamson County Chamber of Commerce, and I'd love for you to be there. Just look them up at lt360.com for more information. Sign up there. Cost you nothing. Will cost you not a dime, except you'll have a great time with good people like Coach Scott and Dr. Underwood and the rest of the LT360 team. You'll have dinner on them, and you will talk about your health and how to get back to a healthy lifestyle. Sign up today. Do this. LT360.com. That's LT360.com. I hope that you're there. Get to cellular health, to holistic health with LT360. Let's talk about some good news for babies. You can be a hero even without wearing tights and a cape by rescuing a baby's life. Let's talk about Preborn. Preborn's mission is simple. They're determined to save as many babies' lives as they can by providing clinics with in the high abortion areas with life-saving ultrasounds, and they've already rescued over 200,000 babies to date. That is great news. The ultrasound is a game changer. When a mother is considering abortion, the majority of the time after seeing her precious baby and hearing the heartbeat, she will choose life. And because of you, she can meet the baby. Talk about being a hero. One ultrasound session costs just $28. Your tax-deductible donation of any size will go toward saving lives. Preborn receives no government funding. Their work is entirely dependent on us, the pro-life community. So just dial pound 250 and say the keyword baby. That's pound 250 and say the keyword baby. Additionally, if you have the means, consider a leadership gift of donating a machine. These life-saving machines cost $15,000, and I know for many of us that is a tremendous amount of money, but if you can afford, get involved today. The number and the website right there, go pound 250 baby, preborn.com/Matt. All right, Super Talk 99.7 WTN, the Matt Murphy Show in progress. Anticipating a great conversation with Jack Johnson coming up at 2 o'clock. He's Senate Majority Leader. Nothing going on in the Senate of any note. So I am aware that there is leaked audio. When we had Scott Sapicki on, by the way, it was Tuesday. Scott told us, and I forget if he did off or on air, but either way, I'm comfortable in sharing this. Because they had a caucus meeting. The members of the Republican Party had a caucus meeting recently, and Scott Sapicki shared with me, and I want to say it was with us, but I'm not sure, that it was, he described the members of the Republican caucus based on the aftermath of how all of this nonsense with Gloria and the two Justins shook out as frustrated. Frustrated. And rightly so. Well, apparently someone recorded the caucus meeting. And it's my understanding that only Republicans would have been in there.
That's what I was going to ask you. It's like, wouldn't it have to be a Republican that leaked it?
Yep, it would.
Or a Democrat that pretends to be?
Yep, maybe. There are some Republicans that are this is bad. I've not listened to the audio, but I'm preparing to cut it up so we can share some of this with you. I think our man Dan Mandis is on that as well. But in this leaked audio of the Republican caucus meeting recently, there was a lot of back and forth over how poorly the handling of the Bullhorn trio has gone. And apparently, based on the leak of the audio alone, I would suggest to you that someone within the Republican Party is a little upset at Cameron Sexton, the Speaker of the House. And so somehow Tennessee Holler, which is a website, he's a blogger, he's an activist who is regularly seen on in the halls of the Tennessee Capitol, screaming questions at Republicans, etc. This guy, I forget his name, Jacob or Jamie. He's from California. Apparently, there was a lot of frustration directed toward Jody Barrett for the fact that he did not vote for Gloria Johnson. By the way, I note this too, absent this audio, because I don't know what it says, and I'm going to hold off judgment on it until I hear it. But it has not been lost on me that they got the order of all of this wrong. If Gloria Johnson was the one that they feared might be the weakest case to make, and that there was a chance that they would not have the votes for her, why didn't you do the two Justins first, save her to last? That means the threshold of the number that you need to expel her goes down. And the math, I think it was Pamela Furr that first told me this, the math exists that if it had been Justin 1, Justin 2, and Gloria 3rd, all you would have needed was 65 votes, and she'd be out too. And Gloria Johnson was the weakest in terms of the ability to get back into the body of all three. In other words, the Metro Council voted for Justin Pearson to come back. But Knox County, I don't know Knox County would have voted for Gloria Johnson to come back. But they don't need to do that anymore because,
well,
she
at
never got to
minimum,
vote
it
down.
shows how little forethought went into all of this.
Well, and I talked to Cameron Sexton offline, and he said to me, and I'm sharing it with you because I don't think he would mind, that, look, we had to do what was right. Well, and look where that's gotten us. 132, Super Talk 99.7, WTN, back in a moment. Hey, friends, Matt Murphy for Accurate Mortgage Group. I understand these are difficult times to understand in the mortgage industry, and if you're buying or selling a home, you need an expert to explain it to you, and you want someone that you can trust. That makes sense too, right? Well, I can tell you that Accurate Mortgage these are people that you can trust. I know them, Mike, Joe, Heino, and the rest of the crew at Accurate Mortgage Group. They're to the rescue with their payment reduction plan. It helps buyers enjoy a lower mortgage payment for the first 2 years of the mortgage. It's still a normal fixed rate mortgage, but you have lower payments for the first 2 years. This is an incentive for the buyer and the seller. Credit card debt is soaring, and if you're thinking about consolidating that credit card debt and paying off higher interest debt with an Accurate Mortgage cash-out refi, now is a great time to do it. You can get the cash you need for home improvements as well. Call one of the crew. By the way, you can go and visit them locally. This is very important to me. Sitting down and talking about these very important financial matters with someone right in front of you, look them in the eyeball. That's an important facet of all of this. Accurate Mortgage Group, a division of Acopia LLC, an equal housing lender, NMLS 4664. That's 4664. It's Accurate Mortgage Group online, AccurateMTG.com, AccurateMTG.com. It is Super Talk 99.7 WTN. 136. Hi there. My name is Matt Murphy. Murphy Show until 3 o'clock this afternoon. The Drive until 7 tonight. I have no idea. By the way, Bell, I have no idea what context this is in. The context of the message today is I didn't have a message and somebody got mad, and so we said we'd do a Caddyshack quote. So that's the Caddyshack quote.
Right.
The second best quote out of Caddyshack is the last time I saw a mouth like that, it had a hook in it. Also, when Rodney Dangerfield, he goes up to the bartender and says, "Hey, kid, can you make a bull shot?" And the kid says, "Can you make a shoe smell?" Ah, funny kid.
He throws him a tip.
Yeah, don't quit your day job, huh? But from 1082, I have no idea why this is being said to me. Bell K sounds just like Johnny B sounded when Johnny was 70. I don't think Johnny's not 7. What? Somebody's hating on you, Kay. Yeah, you gonna put up with that? Or you gonna fight back?
Well, it's confusing because that could be a compliment.
Well, yeah, Johnny B sounds great.
Yeah, Johnny sounds awesome, but he's not 70.
No, he's not 70, but I mean, he's as cool as the other side of the pillow, man.
Yeah,
I
I got no issue sounding like Johnny.
Okay. Scott says often doing what is right requires doing it the right way. Looks like the speaker and company failed at doing it the right. No, you're exactly right, Scott. I hesitate to be the guy that does this, but I'm going to be the guy for a moment that does this. I got called you remember when I got called spineless? For my analysis.
Oh, you mean on the air?
Yeah.
I thought you meant when I did it and out in the hall.
You shut your mouth. So I gave my take on how all of this was going to go. And I predicted before any of these votes were taken, before the resolutions were read on air. By the way, the United States of America has now identified and arrested a 21-year-old Air National Guardsman from Massachusetts. He's in FBI custody, arrested in the Pentagon leak. We'll give you more updates on that as it becomes available. I'm looking at a helicopter shot right now of a lot of armed people in camouflage uniforms holding guns and dumping someone in what looks to be a Nissan SUV. So there you go. That if you don't do this the right way, you're just going to make them more powerful. It's when I was reminded that Brian actually used the Star Wars analogy right before me, but I did it. Great minds think alike, and I guess so do we. That, it's the Obi-Wan and Darth Vader where they're about to get in a fight, and Obi-Wan says, "If you strike me down now, I will become more powerful than you can possibly imagine." And he does it anyway, and it works. He does become more powerful than you can possibly imagine. Well, when you don't think these things through about how you have to think like Democrats. That means you have to set your morals aside, your ethics aside, your courage of your personal conviction aside, and become Machiavellian. Democrats are Machiavellian. They will say anything, do anything to increase their power. And sadly, call it what you will, call it ignorance, call it naivete, whatever. Leadership in this case did not look beyond it. And now you have a catch-22. You're stuck, as my peepaw used to say, my grandpa used to say, you're stuck between a rock and a hard place, aren't you? Because there's some frustration about how all of this shook out. Well, you're not going to give Justin Jones what he says he wants, are you? He wants a new speaker. You mean to tell me the three of these individuals shutting down the democratic process in the House of Representatives and encouraging the gallery to take to the floor of the well is going to end in the speaker being removed from office as speaker? By the way, I'm aware that a representative in Arizona was expelled as well. If you follow my Twitter feed, you'll note that I posted about that earlier this morning. Different set of circumstances, but it was a bipartisan event, though.
Yeah, but she was a GOP, and the GOP had the majority, and they still booted her.
Uh-huh. Well, once again, because the GOP automatically operates from a deficit because they do things based on their core convictions and their values. And if they believe that someone within their own party has violated the ethics or the morals of the body, they'll boot them out. The Democrats will not do that, folks. I tried to think of one. Democrats circle the wagons and protect their own. I tried to think of the last Democrat that got the boot. And the only one I can think of was Governor Andrew Cuomo. Right? The heat got too much for him, but he was about to get charged with like sexual harassment.
Yeah, that was more of a situation, though, where they kind of used the threat to force him to quit, though. He didn't actually get booted. It was like, you need to leave. Okay.
Well, I can tell you this. I can tell you that the Republicans in the General Assembly in the state of Tennessee are not happy about this leak. Not at all. And regardless, I mean, you know, the family's going to fuss sometimes, right? The family's going to fight sometimes. It's one thing to fight amongst the family about what we should do next and how we should handle this. And why didn't you do this? And why didn't you do that? I mean, it really does become kind of a never talk against the family again. Never publicly speak against the family again. You broke my heart, Fredo. That's my Al Pacino.
Somebody could be leaving the gun and taking the cannolis.
I mean, right? I mean, so whatever is on this audio, and I don't know, I've not heard it yet, I can guarantee the Republicans aren't happy about it, and the Republicans need to find out who leaked it. And they need to boot their butts out of the caucus. In the meantime, Art is in Pulaski. Hey, Art, how are you? Hello, Art. ART.
Hey, how you doing this afternoon? It's a day the Lord made. I just want to say a few things, give reminders to everybody to where we come from and where we are now. This Tennessee state thing ain't no different than anywhere else in this country. So I'm just letting everybody know everything always works out. But I'm going to go back a little ways. I remember when I used to be a Democrat and things were right. And then they started doing entitlements back in the 60s. And my grandfather told me that was going to cause trouble. I'm just going to leave that right there because they started doing things, bringing people in, recruiting them. Now, I moved back to Tennessee for one reason. I lived in Minnesota, and I'm going to cover some things there with you. These people that are blaring in the microphones and everything and always want to cause trouble, talking about racism, gun control, we need to get rid of this and rid of that, their values aren't there. But I watched the Twin Cities burn down for 6 days. Democrat control. They had to call in the Army and National Guard. It was over in 45 minutes. Now, that was with Black Lives Matter and Antifa. So I'm going to throw another little comment in here. Christians are under attack in this world. 39% of the world is still Christian, but there's a lot more good ones out there that just don't attend because they don't want to get involved or make a difference. I'm going to give you a couple more reminders. We had an ambassador, and I served a long time in the Navy. We had an ambassador screaming for help. He had 3 individuals with him, and for 24 hours, the military screamed, let us go in and take care of him. He's under attack. They came out and lied, said it was based on a man from California that posted something on Yahoo or whatever, but that was all in the background. We could have gone in and saved that man, and he was screaming for help even before that, and they said it was just a riot. The riot had AK-47s, and they burned that man in that ambassador's residence. We'll give you another example.
One more.
We go back a little bit further and talk about state houses and Congress and the whole 9 yards. Well, giving you an idea of what's going on in the world today, we're in a lot of trouble. We have got to make a difference. These people that want to scream out and cause trouble, you know, Black Lives Matter was a bunch of crooks, and Antifa and all these people that are screaming out in the Democrat.
Art, by the way, I don't want to interrupt you there, but and no consequence of their actions. Black Lives Matter took donated money, absolutely stole it, and no consequences whatsoever.
Well, they marched in my city up down here. I wasn't here when they did, and I tried to tell everybody. I even tried to tell everybody when they talked about health care. That's one thing I want to remind everybody of. we went into a crisis after we were supposed to keep our doctor and our deductibles would go down and the whole 9 yards. What happened? And then COVID come along, and now we've all had to suffer. We all had to suffer in our schools, in our jobs, the whole 9 yards. And then the first day of the administration, they took a lot of things away from us even then, and just kept it going. And I'm about prayer. I'm about prayer. I've got a grandson on a Ronald Reagan right now, and things are going on in the South China Sea. And we got a president that's on a family reunion in Ireland trying to figure out his genealogy, and we got an axis of fire coming on. So I'm going to ask everybody to start putting out the word. If you're a Christian, I don't care who you are, if you're blessed by God or your maker, you've got to start letting the people know, because the young people, we need them to understand, not on social media or anything else, that this country is heading in the wrong direction. And it's going down fast. So I'm going to ask everybody here on this radio station, and I love your radio station because you tell it like it is.
Thank you, Art.
That we need prayers for this country and the rest of the world right now. And I just hope that God's got that plan in place. And if we all pray and help each other, things will get better. And I know they will. They always do. Thank you for everything you say on the station. It's a good station. For all the listeners, God bless you. This is a day the Lord made.
Thank you, Art. I appreciate that call. Well spoken and well done. Let's go to Jeff in Jolton. Hey, Jeff, how are you?
I'm doing well, Matt. How are you, sir?
I'm fabulous. Thank you for calling.
Hey, my question is, how did they get the bullhorn in the lobby, inside the building? They had to go through metal detectors.
Do they?
That's what I was told, and I've been in there before.
I don't know. No, I don't know that the members go through metal detectors. I could be wrong. I could be wrong, but I don't think the membership goes through metal detectors.
Okay. Well, it was a thought I had when I was on the tractor. I was like, well, if they can get a bullhorn in, one of them could put a gun in his pocket too.
Yeah, I think the Bullhorn Trio, they snuck that in on their own, and so it wasn't a matter of somebody that can. And thank you, Jeff, for the call. I've got to scoot because I'm just running against it. I want to get to one more here. So I get where you're thinking. I get where you're coming from. Is it possible that somebody did that? Well, I mean, no, I don't think a gallery member brought it in and then handed it to a member of the body. I think the House of Representatives members themselves brought it in, and I think they brought it in through their own elevators, and I don't know that they go through metal detectors. I would be surprised, let's just put it that way, if the House membership had to go through metal detectors as well. Before we have to go to a break, here's Brian in Greenbrier. Ryan, pardon me. Hey, Ryan, how are you?
No, it's Brian. You got it right the first
I had it right. Oh, you had it wrong, Bell. I was right. Murray was right. You're wrong. Hey,
no,
Brian.
it's okay. Not a big deal. As long as you pay me, I'll take the name.
Whatever.
Yeah, man. Yeah, that guy that was just talking about the bullhorn. The Gloria is the one that she gave some background on how she got it in there, I think, or they got it in there or something. I think she told about that. But anyway, what I was just going to say was when you were talking about losing our morals and all, and I appreciate Art's comments. He's right on. We got to give those guys who served a voice. They know what's up. They've been around the world. They've been outside this country. But there's a quote that I like to use sometimes. I think I've texted it to you before. That John Dutton says, sometimes you got to be meaner than evil. And I think sometimes that's what we got to do. And I'm a Christian. It's hard for me to say that. But sometimes Cameron Sexton took off with this, and I loved it. And then all of a sudden he caved. When they said they were going to sue, or he went to the Tennessee State Attorney General, and the guy said, don't do it, they'll sue or something. So what? I used to say in business, I got lawyers too when people threaten me.
Yeah, I
do a good job.
Thank you, Ryan, for the call. There's something about how all of this turned in the middle that I don't understand, that we don't know yet. It will become plain. Maybe some of it becomes plain in this leaked audio. Does anyone else believe that there's another shoe that's going to drop on this? I don't understand. There was a line that was drawn in the sand, and it was a strong stand. And then suddenly leadership caved, meaning if you're going to draw this line in the sand, then you make it a constitutional question. You say No, Metro Council. I mean, I'm not saying that this is the right plan. I'm saying when you go in, you got to go all in. I play enough Texas Hold'em to know. If you're bluffing, you got to present. And if you believe you've got a winning hand, you got to go all the way. You can't be bluffed out of your hand. And somewhere in the middle of all this, something happened. And I don't think we understand what happened just yet, but it's coming. I don't know if it happened to leadership. I don't know what happened. I don't know who said what. But halfway through this, everyone just wanted to get off the subject and move on to something else. Something's going on here, and I don't know what it is. We'll find out. Because if you go all in on this, you tell the Metro Nashville Council no. You have to appoint a successor in the interim. If he's elected in special election, that's one thing. But the successor can't be him. That's not the definition of a successor. And they'll say, no, we get to pick who we want to pick. And you say, no, you have to pick someone different. And then a court battle ensues. And you let a court figure it out. At very least, then you have developed a precedent. But that's not what they did. It is 1:53. I'm late. Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Back after this. Friends, Efficient Heating and Cooling, Jeff Eddy here for you. Is the AC working properly? Maybe it's not working properly. Maybe it's kind of, it feels like it's about to go kaput. Do you know if your AC is about to go kaput? Jeff does. Jeff Eddy and Efficient Heating and Cooling can help. They're trustworthy, and I love this about these guys. Jeff's not the biggest company in the world. He's not the biggest AC company in Nashville. He's the best, though. It's why I recommend him and why I trust him in your home, with your AC unit, with your family, with your heater, whatever it might be. He'll tell you if it's time to replace it, and if it's not, he'll tell you that as well. But when he tells you something, you know you can take it to the bank. And they are great at what they do. Plus, they are a diamond contractor with Mitsubishi Electric, an Elite Pro partner with Rheem. Call Jeff Eddy and Efficient Heating and Cooling. Allow him to get one of his certified techs out to you today. 615-784-4424, 784-4424 for Efficient Heating and Cooling.
2 o'clock, I'm Mac Morey with your top story. 76 degrees right now in Nashville and another gorgeous day. Expecting those showers to hold off until tomorrow night into the weekend. Weather coming up in about 3 minutes. A suspect who officials believe is responsible for the leak of hundreds of U.S. defense documents has now been arrested. Jack Teixeira is a 21-year-old Air National Guardsman based in Massachusetts who allegedly uploaded hundreds of photographs of the top secret documents to an online chat group. The group was called Thug Shaker Central, made up of 20 to 30 young men and teenagers who shared photos of guns, racist memes, and different video games. Some of the leaked documents are dated as recently as March and discussed Ukraine's troop deployments, military vulnerabilities, and efforts to arm its forces before a spring counteroffensive. And here in the volunteer state, the expelled members of the Tennessee House of Representatives back in office.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Yeah!
News 2 cameras were rolling as Justin Pearson was officially sworn in to fill the seat from which he was expelled just 7 days ago for breaking rules of decorum to lead an anti-gun rally in the wake of the Covenant school shooting. Inside the House chamber, the Metro first responders were honored for their response that terrible day. Metro Police Chief John Drake.
And these officers went in immediately. There's a lot of heroes standing here today, but this all signifies the one team that we are. Department of Communications, the National Fire Department, and the Police Department trying to keep Nashville and Tennessee safe. So thank you for recognizing us.
Ken Weaver, WTN News.
Pearson entered the chamber with his fist raised and hugged Justin Jones and Gloria Johnson before taking his seat. America's first marathon will hit the streets of Boston on Monday for its 127th running. Security will be tight on this now 10th anniversary of the marathon's bombing. Dave Packer on how safety precautions have changed over the years.
Law enforcement has learned a lot and adapted following the 2013 Boston Marathon bombing.
We have a multi-layered approach.
Boston Police Commissioner Michael Cox says security efforts have evolved in the last decade.
There were a lot of things that we learned, as a result, the enhanced safety checks that we do with the bags. That wasn't the thing that happened back then. The number of officers that we have out here for the event.
All protecting 30,000 athletes, another 9,100 volunteers, and countless spectators.
That is the latest news. Weather's next. I'm Mac Morey, WTN News.
Super Talk 99.7 WTN. It is 2:05. I am Pamela Furr in for Matt Murphy. All right, didn't he say earlier that he took his father-in-law to Prince's Hot Chicken last night and they got the XXX and the whatever? The Prince is kind of kicked in just a minute ago. So I'm in for Matt Murphy for the next hour. So I hope you don't mind for just a moment. Anyway, so and then 3 o'clock rolls around with the drive, et cetera, et cetera. Do you have his microphone plugged in? There you go. All right, excellent. Now in the studio, apparently Matt Murphy booked State Senator Jack Johnson to be with us today. Surprise!
And here you are.
And here I am.
And I'm always happy to see you. By
I know.
The way,
Well, and I'm happy to see you. We are friends from way back, as they say. And you always invite me to sing at your Boots and Beans
You
and
do.
Jeans. And
I'm not just saying this. It's one of the best renditions of the national anthem I've ever heard.
now see.
It always gives me chills, even when it's maybe not such a great rendition. It always gives me chills. But when you do it, it just drives me crazy. It's
real
so
quick
amazing.
to just even share for a second. And now I'm getting chills even remembering it. I think the last one I did for you was after Phil died.
I think you're right.
And it was like the second day after, or maybe it was the day after.
It was very soon after because we paid tribute to him. That's right. And you were able to do it. Talk about a pro. I mean, because we were all so emotional about Phil and sad.
Oh, my goodness. And so I kind of stayed away from folks a little bit beforehand because people were coming up going, we've heard, it's so sad. And when they would do that, I would just flood of tears. So I'm like, okay, I can't sing the national anthem and be this emotional. So I just kind of stood off, to the side, and I was doing really well. And then I got up on stage and I was doing fine, and everybody's like, you got this. And then when you said, ladies and gentlemen, Pamela Furr, well, normally the crowd applauds. This time the crowd overwhelmingly went, "Aw." And then at that point, I think I turned around to all the legislators that were on the stage and I went, oh my gosh. Because at that point, that's when the emotions started. So that I wasn't sure I was going to get through it.
You did, though. You did. You nailed it. It was amazing.
Thank you. You got another Boots and Beans? Have you already scheduled that yet?
We're working on it, and hopefully we'll have some details soon.
Yeah,
so I always
good.
look forward to it. We
Good.
try to do it in the summer, maybe late summer.
fall-ish, Yeah, no, I always love going. And then, of course, you've been a big supporter of the Bourbon Bash, too.
Yes,
So
which
thank
is a great
you.
event.
You
Yes.
were there for the very first one.
I was, yes.
Which was in the lawn of a home and, under a tent. And I think we had about 50 people.
Boy, it's grown since then.
It has really, really grown.
It's become a must-attend event in Williamson
Yeah,
County.
thank you. And we're going to do another one again this year, and we're upping it a bit, and details at another time. So we've got a lot going on.
There's a lot going on.
Yeah, this has been the most active, bizarre legislative session, I would say, even considering the whole state income tax thing.
Yes.
This has been crazy.
Well, it has. There's just been a lot of unforeseen circumstances that have transpired and some things that have happened. But sadly, though, is a lot of the good that we've done this year, and I think there has been a lot of good, has been overshadowed by some of the other things that have been going on at the Capitol. But we will wrap up soon. We're proceeding towards an adjournment, and once we get adjourned, then we can all get back to our districts, and I think we can be out in our communities talking about a lot of the good things we've done this year.
Well, before we get to the good things, hey, Belle, do you have my little Nosy Girl theme song ready? Can you hit that for me? Is it available?
I can't find it. I've been looking, and
go back one page, Belle.
We're doing all this on the fly.
Top
rumor has it. Why don't I just sing it? Rumor has it. There we go. Here we go. Rumor has it. Now you can fade that just a little bit. All right, I'm hearing some rumors that there's some audio that's been leaked that has you on it. And so I haven't had a chance, because when I got the call because of the Prince's Chicken to be in here, I haven't been able to listen to find out what it's all about. What is leaked? Is it bad? What did you say?
I don't think so. As you know, we in the wake of the tragic events that took place at Covenant School, we have intensified our conversation. We were already having a conversation about school safety. The governor introduced a comprehensive school safety bill back in January, and that's been making its way through. And then after the horrific events at Covenant, the governor asked us to press pause, take another look. Let's make sure we're doing everything that we can relative to school safety. And earlier this week, the governor called on the General Assembly to look at some type of a call it what you want, maybe a mental health protection order of some sort and at the end of the day, what we want to do is we want to keep guns, and no matter how pro Second Amendment you are, I think we can all agree, if you're in a mental health crisis, if you are having suicidal or homicidal tendencies, you don't need weapons.
Weapons need to be away from you.
Need to be away from you. We can all agree with that. Now, how you do that is a different deal.
Right.
So there's a term out there that has been around forever called red flag laws.
Right.
Well, for me, and somebody says, you need to support red flag laws. First question I ask, what do you mean by that?
Right,
because
define it. Yeah.
Because different people think of different things. How I define red flag and why I don't support red flag laws is because it's where someone can make an allegation against Pamela, legitimately or not, and go to a court of law, and in an ex parte hearing, we're not even have the opportunity to be there.
You use the term, yes, ex parte.
Yes.
I said this yesterday. That is, you're saying hypothetical. Jack, that's happened to me.
Oh, really?
Oh, yes.
Really?
I've experienced it, and it's not fun, and it cost me money to defend myself, and it ended up being bogus because at the time I didn't even own a weapon. So, I mean, all of it was bogus. So I didn't mean to interrupt you, but the problem is, even when somebody falsely accuses, I know there's laws on the books, but nobody does anything and goes after those people that make those false accusations that ended up getting innocent people in trouble. There's an order of protection that eventually gets dropped if you prove yourself, but now you've gone through all of this rigmarole over somebody that was just being a jerk.
Right.
And I could use other language.
And so where I come down, and I think many do, is we can have that conversation. And if somebody is legitimately in that terrible state from a mental health standpoint, yes, I have no objection with them being dispossessed of their weapons, but they have to have due process.
Right.
They have to have the opportunity to refute those allegations.
Right.
And so I define a red flag law as saying you don't have that opportunity, at least in the short term, to be able to defend yourself. And so I was meeting with a constituent who happens to be a radical anti-gun, take all the guns away, ban all guns, gun registry, and all this stuff. And he secretly recorded me. And in part of the conversation, I said, look, I think we can agree that someone in this very dire circumstance, I'm okay with their guns being removed from them temporarily as long as they get due process. But you can't call that a red flag law. Because if you do, the term has been so bastardized that it will get labeled as that, and you won't be able to advance it. So we have to think about the words that we use. And so anyway, I was told earlier that that's out on social media and has been leaked. But I stand by what I said. We can have a sincere conversation about the need to remove weapons from someone when they have due process, but not through an ex parte hearing where they don't have the opportunity to refute the allegations being made against them.
Right. Yeah. And I mean, you've talked to, lots of people in law enforcement. I know lots of people in law enforcement, and they will tell you that people use them to solve disagreements. Mm-hmm. And this is a way that they do when
absolutely.
when you're talking about domestic situations. So if you're making it broader to include anybody, then look at the people that would end up abusing that if they had the opportunity. So we have to have something in place. Now, I haven't read the whole bill from Heidi Campbell has introduced. She's calling it the extreme risk protection order.
Yeah, that's what some people call it.
Now, I haven't read all of hers. On the surface, it sounds reasonable. It sounds like it fits within what Governor Lee is calling on people to do. I haven't read the whole thing. I'm being honest. But I said to her on a Twitter post, I would say to her if she was sitting here, and I say to you, that's all well and good, but what about the people who will abuse that? Right. There has to be stiffer penalties that people will also use to prosecute them for doing something that's going to separate an innocent individual from their Second Amendment right.
Well, that's why, Pamela, I think the due process is so incredibly important. And if someone is going to make an allegation, and listen, we want people who know, and when you look at these horrible mass shooting events, there's a consistent theme through many of them. And we later learned that the individual was in a mental health crisis of some sort. They were mentally ill. We also typically learn that there were warning signs. There were things that they said or that they did. And we need to have a way for people, loved ones, your neighbor, someone, a coworker,
Right.
when they recognize that you're struggling, and then perhaps you say something that is a bit alarming, and then there needs to be a way for that to be addressed. But if you're going to dispossess someone of their liberty, you have to have due process.
Yeah.
That's the fundamental premise. So that in a situation, if it is a false allegation, maybe an ex-girlfriend or boyfriend or your next door neighbor,
or a neighbor,
and they're mad about
coworker, whatever,
coworker,
yeah.
and they're going to go off and make some unfounded allegation, that will be discovered during a due process hearing.
Right.
And so that's conversations we're having about, is there a way to do that and do it quickly but fairly, and so that due process is involved. Anytime you're going to deprive someone of their God-given liberties,
Yeah.
it has to be a without due process.
Correct. Thank you. Ex parte can't work here. Now, when you're talking about somebody who's in a mental health crisis and true mental health crisis, they may not have the capacity to go to the court and defend themselves, which I would think at that point, it's not ex parte anymore. If there's at least somebody is on their behalf saying they can't defend themselves right now, they are truly in this mental health crisis, then at that point, a court could maybe declare them incapacitated. I don't know what the terminology would be.
First and foremost, just as someone accused of a criminal offense, the court should be mandated, and I would only support a bill that included this. If that individual, because of their mental condition, is unable to speak for themselves or defend themselves, then it would be required that the court appoint a guardian ad litem. That there be an attorney there on behalf of that particular individual.
Yeah.
So if they're not able to, or perhaps they want to be there, but but you shouldn't be in that situation without an attorney, in my view.
Yeah. Here's what I do love. I hate that this happened at Covenant School. What a horrific day, and we're still trying to come to grips with everything that happened. But I'm glad these conversations are taking place. My question to you is this. There are Democrats who say they are not being heard. Is that true?
I would not say that that's true in the Senate. In the Senate, I think we have a great relationship. We don't always get along with our friends across the aisle. We disagree on certain things. Rephrase that. We do get along. We get along. We don't always agree. But you could go watch any floor session, which I know you've done. It's all streamed. It's all online.
All of it's online.
Former sessions are archived. You can watch anything we do in the Senate. And you see Democrats talk a lot. I mean, the speaker recognizes them just like he recognizes anyone else in the chamber, and they have an opportunity to stand up and speak as much as they would like. Occasionally, after the debate has gone on for quite a while, someone will move previous question and say, I think everybody knows where they are. And then that does shut off debate.
Yeah.
And it takes a 2/3 vote to call for the previous question. So that does happen on occasion. Now, I don't serve in the House, and so they have different rules. They have more members. It's a different situation.
Different animal there. Yeah. In the Senate, looking at what's been happening to the House, do you have a comment? Do you have any opinion to what seems to be a little bit of chaos?
Well, it's been unfortunate, and we are careful not to senators to speak about House business and House members about Senate business.
But I have to ask.
But I will say this. No, and I'm glad you did. And I will say this, that what transpired with members getting up and absolutely obstructing the ability for the body to be able to conduct its business was 100% inappropriate and should be condemned in the strongest of possible terms. Completely unacceptable. I'll stop at that.
Yeah.
And whether they should be expelled or not expelled, whatever, that's a decision for the House to make. And I respect their ability to do that. A lot of folks don't remember. We expelled a senator a year ago, just over a year ago.
Yeah, wasn't it? Katrina
Robinson.
Yes.
And now,
because she had, and I need to be careful. I'm going to say allegedly had some fraud charges.
No, she was convicted.
But she was convicted.
She was convicted of a felony.
Yeah.
She was convicted
and
by
that's
jury
why she was expelled.
of her peers. We called on her to resign. She refused to do so.
Yeah, that's right.
Which that she should have resigned once she was convicted, because if you're a felon, you're ineligible to serve. We can't let you continue to serve because it's against the Constitution.
That's right. And then there was another one in the House whose name escapes me right at this moment because of allegations of sexual misconduct, but I can't think of his name right now, and that's
Jeremy
all right.
Durham.
Yeah, that's right. Jeremy Durham under Beth Harwell's reign as Speaker of the House. So, all right, it's 2:19. Can you stick around a little longer? All right, good deal. I'm going to take a quick break here. 2:19. I am Pamela Furr in for Matt Murphy for a few minutes here on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Super Talk 99.7 WTN. It is 2:24. Good afternoon. I am Pamela Furr in for Matt Murphy this afternoon. Well, just for the next 40 minutes or so, and ask him about Prince's chicken when you hear him again. That's all I'm going to say. Have you had Prince's chicken?
I don't think I have.
That's the hot chicken. That was the original Nashville hot chicken.
Love hot chicken.
And so apparently he got the double, triple hot.
Ooh, yeah, that's
painful. So bless his heart. All right, so we've got Senator Jack Johnson in the studio with us today, who was previously booked to be with Matt Murphy. I'm glad I have the opportunity to talk to you. It's good to see you. So there's still legislation that is making its way through not only the House but the Senate as well. And you guys today, you were debating, right, the bill that would make schools more secure.
Yes.
All right, so where is that right now? What's the debate? What's the issue?
Sure. So again, we were talking about school safety, guns, and this whole conversation. Well, back in January, the governor introduced. He actually formed a task force back last spring that met law enforcement, school officials, and to figure out what do we need to do in Tennessee to make our schools safer. And they came forward with some really great recommendations. So the governor brought forward a school safety bill that's been making its way through. And we actually passed it on the floor today unanimously.
Oh,
It
nice.
had bipartisan support, and it deals with a number of things, but it's effectively emergency action plans for schools making sure that their doors are locked. That's another thing we find in some of these horrific events in schools is that even though they had security and good way, then there's a door in the back that's unlocked or it's standing open. So dealing with that. And then on the budget side of things, which wasn't part of the legislation, but the governor's proposed, and we will pass over $200 million to go towards school safety, $140 million recurring of which will go to make sure we have an SRO in every school resource officer. And there's money in there for a Homeland Security agent in every county to work and coordinate with the schools, help identify people that might be troubled and might have a tendency towards committing this type of violence. So a lot of talk, and a lot of that before the Covenant tragedy, and then certainly that just created an even greater sense of urgency.
Sure. Well, congratulations. Now it goes to the governor's desk.
It's on the way to the governor's desk, and very excited to get that passed.
Excellent. And then what about the legislation that split the city council in Nashville in half, Metro Nashville City Council? Where is all that? Because I thought it was a done deal. Then they sued. Then they said, a judge said, yeah, okay, you have legal standing to sue, and we're going to put an injunction here. Where does all this stand really at this point?
So we did, and one thing I will say is that we actually just put a cap on how many members of the council. We didn't set how many it would be. We put a
no
cap
more
of
than
20. Exactly.
Got it.
The council could make it 8 or 12 or 15.
Gotcha. All right.
But you're right. We did pass that. Not unsurprising that there would be litigation over that. I was disappointed that it got enjoined by a court, and it is temporarily enjoined. So what we're waiting on now is to see if the Supreme Court, because there's an election coming up.
Yeah.
And
soon.
Yeah. And the council has already started some of the process of redistricting. And so there's a bit of urgency there. I have no idea if the Supreme Court intends to reach down and grab it and go ahead and make a determination on it. But we will see. But it has been enjoined at the trial court level, and so the legal process is working.
Gotcha. All right. So what should we expect from the state Senate what are you hoping? Two more weeks of session or?
Well, we've actually mapped out a plan to where we could theoretically wrap up next week, at the end of next week, maybe Friday. We always get to this point where we're pretty much done, and then we have to make a decision with the House. If it's Thursday and we're not quite done, do we go home for the weekend and come back Monday?
Or
do we come back Friday and see if we can wrap up?
Sure.
So we adopted a schedule today in the Senate that has us meeting Monday through Friday, and we even asked members to hold a little time on Saturday.
Sure.
And if we can wrap up, we will. If we get to Thursday and there's no way, we'll come back, the next week.
Well, if you're looking to adjourn that quickly, I say quickly, but does that mean then that some of these bills that are getting introduced, like the one that Heidi Campbell, it won't get heard this session, will it?
Well, it could. Our committees have shut down, all of our committees except for the Finance Committee. But again, I think there's a real willingness to see if we can figure out a way for what we talked about before the break relative to people who are in a mental health crisis or certainly criminals to be able to dispossess them of their weapons as long as they get due process.
Right.
And I know I keep repeating that, but for me, that is the fundamental thing. And that's what separates what I can support from what most people would call a red flag law, which is why, even though I was recorded unknowingly by someone that's on the online now, what I was saying is I can support that, but that's not a red flag law, and so we shouldn't call that a red flag law. The reason we, as strong constitutional conservatives, say we don't support red flag laws is because I think they're unconstitutional. To say that someone can make an allegation about you and a court can say, well, we're going to take your guns away, and you never had a chance to defend yourself. That's a red flag law. What I'm saying that we might consider is something with due process and should not be called a red flag law. It should be called something different.
Well, and what I don't want to happen, because I think this has happened a lot in the last couple of weeks, people having knee-jerk reactions and then pass legislation that's bad legislation.
Right.
So you don't want to react emotionally. You really do want to study it and make sure this is the right way to go.
And I will say to that, Pamela, you're 100% correct. And this is something, and it doesn't get a lot of attention, but almost every year I've been up there, and I've been up there a few years, we have had conversations about, mental illness and how do we make treatment available, and when are those, in those very rare but sometimes necessary circumstances where someone might need to be even involuntarily hospitalized because they're a danger to themselves or others is kind of the standard that's used. And so this is an ongoing conversation. Now, again, the horrific events of Covenant and the governor calling us to do something has added a sense of urgency. So I told a TV reporter yesterday, I said, well, can you get something done in that amount of time? We'll take as long as we need if we think we can get something that is good policy, that can keep people that are in this dire situation from their weapons until they can get help, but do it without violating their constitutional rights and depriving them of due process.
Very good. State Senator Jack Johnson on the Matt Murphy Show today. We'll take this break. It is 2:31. Thank you for being with us.
My pleasure.
And I know I will see you again
I was looking
soon.
forward to being with Matt, but this is a treat.
Thank you.
I get to see you.
Thank you. Yeah. And I'm sure next week or somewhere along the way you will see Matt Murphy again. All right, taking a break. We'll be back. I am Pamela Furr on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
.232, I'm Mac Morey with your top story. 77 degrees, cloudy, little sunny. Going to be a beautiful rest of the day. Weather in 2 minutes. Right now, some breaking news from Fox. Senator Mitch McConnell has now said that he is going to return to the Senate on Monday after suffering concussion. He says, quote, I'm looking forward to returning to the Senate. We've got important business to tackle and big fights to win for Kentuckians and all of the American people, end quote. A suspect who officials believe is responsible for the leak of hundreds of U.S. defense documents has now been arrested. Jack Teixeira is a 21-year-old Air National Guardsman based in Massachusetts who uploaded hundreds of photographs of the top-secret documents to an online chat group. The group is called Thug Shaker Central, made up of 20 to 30 young men, teenagers. They shared photos of guns, racist memes, and video games. And some of those leaked documents are dated as recently as March and discussed Ukraine's troop deployments, military vulnerabilities, and efforts to arm its forces before a spring counteroffensive. And the Justice Department now escalating its case to restore wider access to the abortion medication mifepristone after an appeals court ruling allowing it to remain available, but with tighter restrictions. Here's more now from Justin Finch.
Attorney General Merrick Garland announcing Thursday that the Justice Department is taking its fight to preserve access to mifepristone to the Supreme Court. The move follows the Fifth Circuit Appeals Court ruling to limit the abortion pill's availability up to 7 weeks of pregnancy, mandate in-person medical office visits, and require a qualified physician supervision, dismantling steps the FDA had taken over the past several years to expand access to the drug, including via mail.
And right now in Tennessee, News 2 reports that officials are seeking help from the Robertson County community in helping find a teenage boy who ran away from the DCS last week. 15-year-old Brian Merez left on April 6th in the night while in the Springfield area. Merez is a Hispanic boy who doesn't speak English and has brown hair and brown eyes. That is the latest news. Weather's next. I'm Mac Morey, WTN News.
Super Talk 99.7 WTN. It is 2:38. I am Pamela Furr in for Matt Murphy, who's had too much Prince's hot chicken. And so I'm in for the next 20 minutes. So ask him about it when you hear from him again.
I think his father-in-law is calling him a lightweight right about now.
Meanwhile, Belle K, just for a moment. Are these your pants? I think they fell off, and they've been sitting in the hallway. You're the only person.
Is this the preamble to a call to HR?
No. If you don't know what I'm talking about, Belle has been talking about his Awaken 180 weight loss, and he says
My pants don't
his pants
fit.
are falling off.
It's literally so annoying because I'm constantly like an idiot. I'm constantly pulling my
up
pants
your pants,
up.
yeah.
And, I need to go buy new pants, but I'm going to lose if I lose another, when I lose another, 25 pounds, I'm going to have to go buy pants again. Jeans are $80 a pop. I'm not going to go spend
Goodwill,
$200.
man. Goodwill.
No, Levi's. Levi's.
You can
from
find
the store.
Levi's at the Goodwill store.
From the new store.
But, a belt. Have you heard of belts?
Yeah, they have the same problem with the belt.
Oh, you can put on another hole in a belt, though.
I lost my all.
Suspenders?
I'm sorry, it's not 1920.
Do they even sell suspenders anymore? I don't know. So see, go to the suspender store. Amazon, man. Amazon will hook you up. You walking around with suspenders. If you put on a bow tie too, you'll look great.
I'm the long-haired
Tucker
Carlson.
Exactly. All right, that's funny. 615-737-9986. I know a couple people are on the line that want to talk, but I need to get you updated on a story. Belle, is my computer up so I can play some audio here? An arrest has been made in the Pentagon leaking story. And Attorney General Merrick Garland has confirmed that. He made a statement. I want to play the entire statement for you, if you don't mind. And it's short. It's actually not very long. And then we'll go from there and talk about what has actually transpired at this point. So
I'm joined today by Deputy Attorney General Lisa Monaco and FBI Director Paula Bate. Today, the Justice Department arrested Jack Douglas Teixeira in connection with an investigation into alleged unauthorized removal, retention, and transmission of classified national defense information. Teixeira is an employee of the United States Air Force National Guard. FBI agents took Teixeira into custody earlier this afternoon without incident. He will have an initial appearance at the U.S. District Court for the District of Massachusetts. I want to thank the FBI, Justice Department prosecutors, and our colleagues at the Department of Defense for their diligent work on this case. This investigation is ongoing. We will share more information at the appropriate time.
All right, there you go. I mean, that was it. It was plain and simple. His identity was first revealed by the New York Times after this scandal hit regarding the secret dossier, right? Secret dossier circulated online, right? I'm looking at a picture of Jack. How did he pronounce his name? Teixeira? Teixeira?
Tequila.
In his
I've heard Shara, yeah.
Teixeira?
Yeah.
The leader of the Thug Shaker Central Chat group on Discord. And he was named as one of the men that could be behind the biggest national security breaches in the last decade. I'm looking at him in uniform. Boy, he looks 21. Not a lot of medals on him. So I don't even know. Let's see. When it's Air National Guard, what's the lowest rank there? I don't know. See, private is what I would say for Army, but since he's Air, it's different. So apparently,
Airman Basic, E1.
Yeah, an E1. Yeah.
E1.
That makes sense. So the inside of Teixeira's childhood home in Bristol, Massachusetts, matched photos of the sensitive files on U.S. intelligence in the Ukraine war, which have been shared on forums since apparently the end of last year. The FBI, they're now going to question him whose mother, Dawn, confirmed to the Times that he is an active member working out of a base in Cape Cod and has been taking more night shifts. A spokesman for the U.S. Justice Department declined to comment when contacted by the Daily Mail. I'm reading this from the Daily Mail. A National Guard spokesman said, "We are aware of the investigation that this Massachusetts Air National Guardsman may have played in the recent leak of highly classified documents." That's all they're saying. The revelation comes after President Biden said during his third day of his Ireland trip that investigators were getting closer to finding out the source. They arrested him, by the way, at his mama's house. Biden, the alleged leaker, Biden said he wasn't concerned about the sharing of the documents that threatened to risk American assets around the world because the information is not contemporaneous. He apparently had his Geritol today, and he was able to say big words. The intelligence included in the files have included information suggesting Ukraine will soon run out of artillery and potentially risking U.S. intelligence sources around the world. Dozens of teenagers and young adults are said to make up the group where those files were posted and have been described as like-minded individuals. 2 members of the chat room described the suspect to the Washington Post last night. He's fit, he's strong, he's armed, he's trained. Just about everything you can expect out of some sort of crazy movie. Yikes. He described him as a young, charismatic man who loves nature, God, shooting guns, and racing cars. The Washington Post reported they had seen videos and photos of the man, as well as recordings of his interactions with members of the group. In a video seen by the Post, the man is at a shooting range with a large rifle, wearing safety glasses and ear coverings. He looks into the camera and yells racial insults, anti-Semitic insults, then fires multiple rounds at a target. The New York Times reported that they were able to link Teixeira to other members of the online group through his gaming profiles. And I'm looking at some of the documents now. Boy, they sure do look official. I can tell you that. I have to tell you something else, too. Because, I was rereading the story of Bradley Manning earlier today because I'm thinking to myself, how do such young ones have access to classified documents? How in the world does this happen? And so I was rereading his story, and one of the problems with Bradley Manning is that when he made it through, he barely made it through his basic training. And in fact, they wanted to go ahead and discharge him, but he was able to convince his people that he was okay. He wanted to stay. His parents wanted him to stay, even though he had mental issues. He had dysphoria issues, gender dysphoria issues that were well documented long before he turned himself into Chelsea Manning, right? And he was being bullied in basic training. At least those were the accusations, all the things. I have to ask these questions. Are we lowering the standard of members of the military just to keep our recruitment numbers up? Because you have some people who obviously have some mental issues. Now, I don't know if this leaker did. His may have just been maybe to impress somebody. Maybe he was trying to impress this group. He's 21 years old. Maybe he was trying to impress this group. Maybe he was trying to make a statement. Maybe he was, I don't know the motive behind this. He's in a lot of trouble. I don't know how, unless he gets a pardon like Bradley Manning did from a president, I don't know how he gets out of this without spending a substantial amount of time in prison. So, it's That's my final statement on that. We'll take a break here. Why not? It is 2:48, and then we'll wrap up some things with your phone calls if you'd like to talk. 615-737-9986. That's the super text line. That is also our telephone line, and the phone lines are open. Robert and Jim, if you'll hold on, both of you, I will get to your calls first when we come back on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. All right, Super Talk 99.7 WTN. It is 2:56. I am Pamela Furr in for Matt Murphy. Matt Murphy, I just have been told it's a miracle. It's a miracle. Prince's fried chicken is out of his system, or hot chicken, and he will be with us in the next segment. Are you on? Are you there? Congratulations, Matt.
I step out of the room for just a minute and she's here. What happened?
I grabbed my bullhorn and
told
took
her
over.
I told her she could have the job. I can't get rid of you.
Hey, Pamela.
Hey, Matt. Well, welcome to your own show.
I feel like we've done this before. Yeah.
Deja vu all over again.
All over again.
I love that place.
I am not even commenting really at this point. You weren't here when Deja Vu was just right on the corner. It's now moved to Church Street, which is ironic that it's on Church Street.
Yes.
All the deviant kind of things happen on Church Street now.
That
here
hustler
in
stores
Nashville.
over there.
Yeah, exactly.
Doubled my walk.
All right. Anyway, hey, have you tried the buffet? They do serve a buffet there, a lunch buffet.
Buffy, what?
They've got some great.
All right.
They put breast and thighs on the buffet
all right.
every Wednesday.
Prince's hot chicken is what they serve.
It was a Prince's hot chicken.
All
Although
right.
it's kind of working on me.
Well, anyway, so you'll be back. All right, I was going to take these phone calls.
Oh, no, I'll just shut up now. I'll just be quiet.
Is
now.
that all right?
Yeah, I'm going to be quiet.
Silence you on your own
Yes.
show. Please be silent.
Yes.
Let's go to John in Greenbrier. Hey, John. John, are you eating? Okay, we're going to move on because that sounded gross. Hey, Robert in Woodbury. Hey, you're on the Matt Murphy Show.
Good afternoon. I'm going to make a comment about the Covenant shooting and the remedies of safety glass.
Yeah,
and,
Robert, you're going to have to make it quick because I only have 60 seconds.
oh, golly. Let's look at the parents. Let's look at the nurturing at the home. Newport News just arrested the 25-year-old mother where the 6-year-old son shot the teacher.
Right.
And he's been indicted. If we start looking at the families and the parental lack of nurturing, maybe they'll start paying more attention to what's going on at home.
Maybe. But, Robert, I will say this, and I hate to cut you off because that music means we've run out of time. But remember, in the Covenant school shooting, the woman was 28 years old. 28 years old. All right. Matt Murphy's up next on The Drive, I hear. Rumor has it.
I hear that too.
So that's coming up next after the news on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Three o'clock, I'm Mac Morey with your top stories. Right now, 76 degrees and a gorgeous day in the mid-state. Weather traffic coming up just a few minutes. An update with the leaked documents. Here's Dave Packer.
A probable cause arrest in the investigation into U.S. classified intelligence documents leaked online. Attorney General Merrick Garland minutes ago from Washington.
Today, the Justice Department arrested Jack Douglas Teixeira in connection with an investigation into alleged unauthorized removal, retention, and transmission of classified national defense information.
ABC's Aaron Katursky with the latest.
Law enforcement officials told ABC News the FBI tracked the suspected leaker to a rural community in southeastern Massachusetts and took into custody a 21-year-old Jack Teixeira in North Dighton, Massachusetts. This is near the city of Taunton. The immediate charges were not available. He is expected to make an initial court appearance in Boston at some point in the near future.
Uniformed agents and armored vehicles arriving this afternoon at his home of the Air National Guard member. Teixeira moderated a Discord social media server where there were multiple reports he started posting the documents last fall.
And Attorney General Merrick Garland, when he spoke today, he thanked the FBI and other colleagues for their work on this case. Justin Pearson and Justin Jones are now back in office in the Tennessee State House of Representatives.
Pearson officially sworn in on the state capitol steps this morning.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Yeah.
It was just 7 days ago that Jones and Pearson were expelled for leading an anti-gun rally in the wake of the Covenant school shooting. Both of them reappointed by the local governing bodies in their districts in Nashville and Memphis. Ken Weaver, WTN News.
To some news with the Biden administration. They're wrapping up its Investing in America tour today with an announcement impacting drivers and states across the country and Washington, D.C. Here's Justin Finch.
The White House announcing a $300 million investment in 9 bridges from California to the nation's capital for projects including repairs, rehabilitation, and replacement. The administration calling these overpasses community lifelines, estimating more than 200,000 drivers rely on them daily. Vice President Kamala Harris visiting the Arlen D. Williams Jr. Memorial Bridge Thursday, which connects Washington, D.C. to Arlington, Virginia. That bridge due for $72 million in funding.
And back here in Nashville with some entertainment news, country star Luke Combs taking over the Wild Horse Saloon, and there are big plans in this renovation. It's going to become a 4-level entertainment complex. A sports bar will be there with legal betting included, a high-end bourbon area, plus an area for line dancing. And they're thinking about a 9,000 square foot rooftop that's been rumored in the renovation plans. It'll be located at 122nd Avenue North, and the venue will be expected to debut in the summer of 2024. The venue will operate as Wild Horse Saloon throughout the planned refurbishment period. That is the latest news. Weather's next. I'm Mac Morey, WTN News.